Okay, it's 6:30, I'm going to get started. We have a very packed agenda tonight, so I'm going to try to keep the meeting moving along. If I do go too fast for anybody, please speak up and I'll behave myself. But it's a really packed agenda, so I'm going to move us right in. So I'm opening, first one is a variance for 126 Elm Street. The application is David Duffy Jr., who is requesting a variance to allow for a front setback of 42 feet instead of the normal 50 feet. This is on 126 Elm Street. You want to tell us what's going on, sir?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Stefanik. I'm a land surveyor with Durden and Hellon, and as you probably realize the history of this property, Mr. Duffy tore down an old house that was pre-existing non-conforming, received a variance in 2020 in regard to setbacks, but we are here to clarify the frontage setback of the new house. Really kind of a technical matter. The setback is 42 feet where it's 50 feet required. I believe my colleague John Federico was here at the last meeting, and I believe, I'm not exactly sure, but I think this got approved, but there was a question in regard to the certified mailings. So we took care of the certified mailings. I have copies of the green cards here. And so we're asking for approval by
that was
the board for the variance.
I remember this one because it had a garage that was like right on the property line. I mean, like within like 2 feet. And we made a deal where they could, instead of leaving it that close to the property line, we made a deal that we could move it further away but build it new. We were trying to get that property going. It sat for quite a while there. You had that DEQE issues, I'm assuming?
Right, and the original variance was in 2020, I think.
Yeah.
But the variance wasn't specific in regards to the frontage, so we're trying to clarify that. So we're asking for approval of the variance.
Now, is the frontage, the distance from the road changing from the pre-existing non-conforming?
The pre-existing non-conforming was much closer to the road.
That's not correct, sir.
I have a copy of where the house was before it was torn
next door. I
down.
know where the house was.
Yeah. I don't have a specific distance on this older plan that's recorded at the Registry of Deeds, but by eye, it's very close, if not closer.
Before I open it up to public comment, because we do always allow public comment, I want to make sure the board, I was here during that time. We have some members who weren't way back when. So if you guys want to ask whatever questions you have. This was a very small house. There's a rock outcropping in the way backyard. There's a water wetland to the right-hand side.
Conservation restriction in the back.
Yeah. It was a very difficult lot to build on it. This is going to sound funny. I was looking for land at the time, and I actually didn't choose to get it because I thought getting it through conservation would be a nightmare. So I'm glad you guys succeeded there. Were you on, Eric? You must have been around for this one, right?
I wasn't one of the
Okay. Gentlemen, I'll hand it off to you to let you ask any questions that you have on this, if you have any, and then I'll let any neighbors speak to this matter. Amy, was there any, or Mike, were there any questions or concerns that you wanted to bring forth?
Mike Antonellis, Director of Land Use and Inspectional Services. No, I just wanted to echo what Mr. Stefanik said. It was just that at the last meeting, I believe the board did vote to approve this application. It is before the board tonight again because there was an error in the notification, so that's why you're hearing it now. I don't think, I'm not sure if the folks in the audience heard, but I believe that the chair did call for public input if At this time, or did I hear it
I,
correctly?
not yet, but
Oh,
I will.
sorry.
It's just policy, I always get public input.
Okay, I defer to the chair, thanks.
Okay, all right. I know I got one abutter, if you want to make a comment, or anyone else that's here as an abutter, any abutter comments? No? Okay. All right, no abutter comments?
Other than mine.
I just pointed to you. Oh,
Yes.
did you want to make more of a comment than that? That's what I meant.
I would like to object, yes.
Okay, what's your concern, sir?
Well,
Can you
to
state your
begin
name
with,
and
the house
address,
is not in the
please?
right place,
Oh,
right? So
hold
we
on.
already told you that there's been a mistake. I have lots of questions, like how did this mistake happen? Who made this mistake? The surveyor? If we knew the mistake, when did we know this mistake? Why did we continue to build after we knew this mistake?
The site plan was approved, vetted through the town. The house never moved on the approved site plan. There was a typographical error in the original design that called out the frontage, the required setback is 25 feet. That was an error. The existing distance now is 42 feet. And that's why we're asking for the relief of 50 feet.
I mean,
But the plan had been approved through all the various town agencies. And no one caught the typographical error in regard to the frontage. And we got the variance in regard to setbacks, but it wasn't specific for the frontage.
No,
So
I remember it was the side one that we were most concerned, because
That
that
was very specific, it was the side one.
Yeah, the garage,
Somehow the 10-foot Upton rule got ignored for that particular variance, so disappointed to hear that as well.
Can we get a name and address,
Yeah.
please?
Can you give her name and address? She always.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian Houston,
Yeah.
124 Elm Street.
Yeah. Are you the butter to the left?
Correct.
Yeah.
Do I
spell your
recall
last
correctly that the garage was,
H-E-W-S-O-N.
do I recall correctly
Thank
the
you.
garage was pre-existing non-conforming and
Yeah.
that non-conformity was reduced?
That is a
by
correct, yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, it was
So we
right
wouldn't-
on the
We
line.
wouldn't have had the right to reduce it to 10.
I'm sorry, what?
We would not have had the right to reduce it to 10. It was since it was already over the line.
Yeah.
He had the right to maintain it exactly where it was.
Yeah. And I'll take the blame for it. That, no offense to you, that pre-existing garage was rather ugly, I could use a worse word for it. And it was.
Agreed.
Yes, and it was right on the line. And I suggested in the meeting, I said, listen, can you get rid of that garage and move it for the minimum, like, he's right. If it's on the line and it pre-exists, it can stay on the line. And we don't, as a town, have the right to do anything about it. But we made a deal with the builder to move it further away so that they would be at least 4 feet for maintenance and things like that on the side. And it became less non-conforming. And when something becomes less non-conforming, boards consider that to be a good thing.
So enough about the side setback, I understand that, let's see, said 2020, right?
Right.
Now we're down to the front back setback, and who made this mistake?
there was an error on the design plans, the wrong frontage.
Right.
But that was reviewed through the town, the building permit was issued, we had gotten a variance in regard to setbacks, and I'm not so sure the setback recorded, I don't have a copy with me. I'm not so sure if it talks about side yard or
It definitely
or
says side.
front.
I know we're supposed to, I remember the front was not going to be less non-conforming than it was.
Correct.
And as long as it's not less non-conforming, it's allowed,
Right.
okay? As long as we're going to have human beings involved in doing things, occasional mistakes do get made, and we do try to clean them up, and that's why we're back here tonight, it sounds like. But it is not any more non-conforming. I remember that building, you remember that building, it wasn't anything that was gonna improve your property values. I think in the long run, a new building there certainly might have that effect. Because that, you've got to admit, that property there was
It was pretty terrible.
pretty terrible. So I would rather, just my personal opinion, the board has their own opinion, I would rather move forward with this. It's not any more non-conforming. Let's clean up the mistake and get that project's been in limbo overall for
2019.
2019, I was gonna say 4 or 5 years. So, let's get it cleaned up. But be smart, talk to your neighbors, putting in a row of hedges or bushes that give him more privacy. We know things are very tight in that neighborhood. Can go a long way. It is not a condition of the board to require that. It's smart business, and it's not that expensive.
When I suggested that to the homeowner, I got met with expletives.
Yeah, you want to make a comment? I'm not.
Not on that, I do have a question for Mike.
Oh, Mike?
Yeah.
Yes, Mike.
No, I'm just curious as to, is this properly a variance, or should this be a special permit under 300-3.3,
Yeah.
which deals with non-conforming?
It's, through the chair, I think it's fine to proceed with a variance, even though we do have a provision in the bylaw that allows it to go forward by special permit. I believe I did mention that to a representative from Mr. Stefanik's office when initially doing the initial intake, just providing that option. I think it was the opinion that time, and I don't mean to speak for Mr. Stefanik or the applicant, but I think the opinion of it that time was we had the variance approved, and that's what we're seeking to correct at this time because of that incorrect notation within the plan that was approved on the original variance application. Regardless of the fact that there is an option to proceed with a special permit. So I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but I think it's fine to do either or in this type of scenario.
I think it makes sense. I think a special permit might make more sense because we could condition it, and it's not subject to challenge in the same way a variance is.
Doesn't a special permit dissolve with ownership, though? I mean, you're not going to move the house when somebody dies,
No.
where a variance is permanent forever.
Through the chair, both the board has the opportunity through implementing conditions in the case of a special permit, the board has the ability to implement conditions that might make a special permit sunset with change in ownership or something like that. But that would need to be stated expressly. Otherwise, it does continue to go with the land just like a variance would. And you do have the ability to put conditions on variances as well.
I'm not as comfortable with special permits as you are, or as knowledgeable as them. You are a lawyer. I know variances are forever. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it. If you think it's okay, I trust your judgment.
I think so, and I would lean towards that. Like I said, they're easier to uphold. Variances are easy to overturn on challenge. Condition of special permit, if something like hedges would assist.
We can't regulate you get along with your neighbors.
Yeah.
And we try
Frankly, I
to.
don't know anything about
Right.
neighbors and how they get along with their.
But we can regulate like a row of hedges. I think the hard part, though, is where on that property. There's not much division between your property and his property. And we tried something like this a few meetings back, and then we got caught up in all the details of what type of hedges, how tall, how mature, how close to the line. I wanted this to be a fast meeting, folks, and boy, I'm messing this up.
I apologize to the rest of you folks.
What sort of relief are you looking for, sir?
I would ask that if ever I needed a variance on my property for anything, homeowner has no right to object. That would be number one. Number two is, as you mentioned, the hedges would be great. I mean, some sort of privacy. It really does look straight through my house from this front porch.
You know, I think better than a hedge, this is gonna sound stupid, how about a fence, a 6-foot fence?
Terrific. It wouldn't even have to be the full length, just the 8 feet that he's off by, and that would be fine. Something that looks good, it is good.
I'd even say from the road to the 5 feet past the garage or something like that. Because I don't want to, I want to make sure that garage gets maintained, because the last time it didn't get maintained, it looked like hell.
Correct.
If I, gentlemen, can Eric make a motion that is specific to this, that includes, let's say, a 6-foot fence, I honestly can't give you the support of the variance, that's not legal. That he can't ever, he has always constitutional rights to object. I can't give you that one.
Okay.
We can go for a fence. Would the rest of you be comfortable with me having Eric make a motion that meets his requirements? Okay. Eric, make a motion.
You suggested from where to where?
From, say, I want to be able to see out,
Yeah.
when you come out of the driveway, so we'll say 10 feet back from the road to 5 feet past the front of the garage. At least that distance, because the garage gives you privacy from the rest of his property.
Agreed.
Right. And then,
Even more importantly is his right to object should I ever need a variance for anything I might do.
There's been like 3 different variances in that neighborhood, and they've all gone through. It's like Crockett Road, it's all packed in.
That one little enclave is very tight.
Yes.
why did you say?
As are the neighbors, by the way, we're actually quite close.
Oh, good.
I would say 6 feet.
6 feet?
Is fine.
Okay.
I would even specify what final is.
Okay.
Keep it very specific.
Yeah, because boy, we got bit in the butt when we didn't.
Right.
Yeah, specify vinyl, please.
Wait, fine.
Okay.
6 feet tall, yeah.
Okay. I move that we approve a special permit for,
Variance.
I think we're talking about a special permit, aren't
The item before you tonight is a variance.
Oh. Just go for the variance. I'm actually more comfortable with variances than special permits.
I
know it-
mean, but through the board, sorry to interrupt the motion, if there was a strong desire for a special permit to come before this board, that would have to be re-advertised.
Oh,
and, yeah. So we can't just change it to a special permit tonight.
You get to win the next one, I promise. I tried.
we? Well, depends on if somebody wants to challenge the variance.
Right.
Because that's, yeah.
But I think that this is addressing his concerns, correct?
The fence, certainly, my wife will feel much more comfortable, for sure.
Okay, and I think
For
6
me,
feet,
it's, he needs to waive his right to object if I ever need a
that,
variance.
we can't legally give that. We don't have the ability to give you that.
He does, he's the lawyer.
No, he doesn't.
He's an
He's not the lawyer?
No, but I'm saying he doesn't have, we cannot give away people's rights. It's not something this board can order. So we gotta get, guys, we have a huge
That's
agenda
fine.
tonight. Let's get moving.
Okay, so then I'll move that we approve a variance for the application for 126 Elm Street, subject to the condition that the property owner build a fence 6 foot tall, at least white vinyl, starting from 10 feet back from the front property line to 5 feet past the front of the garage.
I second that motion.
Before the board votes,
Who's second?
What?
it was Bapu. Before the board votes on that, in the motion, does the board care to clarify when that fence should be in?
Oh, thank you, sir.
Um,
August 1st,
Yeah, installed by August 1st.
2024.
2018.
Thank you.
Second that motion.
Okay, take a motion, for the board.
Council Borgo, aye.
Bob Hughes, aye. Ron Butler, aye.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Larry Russell, aye.
Okay, unanimous vote of the board. Thank you.
Thank you all. Happy holidays, everyone.
Okay, sorry, folks. Special permit for 106 Taft Street, application by owners, requesting a special permit to approve an existing 570 square foot accessory apartment which exists above the garage. So it's inside the building, when no one's building anything new, it's already there, correct?
Yes.
This one will be fast.
hope so.
Okay.
So, yeah, we bought the property about 6 months ago.
So there's an in-law studio apartment above the garage.
Yep.
That was built with a permit back in 2008. But it's after the bylaws required that we get a permit
That's
to
correct.
use it. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, any abutters have concerns? Now, he's gonna make the motion, but he's gonna add a condition that's part of the bylaw.
Yeah, I move that we approve the request for a special permit for an in-law apartment. Property at 106 Taft Street, subject to the condition that you submit an affidavit to the town as to the occupancy as required by our zoning bylaw.
Okay. Anyone second?
We did, I'm so
Oh.
sorry.
What?
Only because I was distracted. Did you call for a butter comments?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Please
Yeah.
continue.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I'll take a vote of the board.
Tom Spargo, aye. Bob Humes, aye.
Tom Butler, aye.
Bill Ames, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay, it's approved unanimously. Just so you know, there's a 20-day appeal. I should have said it to the last one. There's a 20-day appeal period. But once that 20-day appeal period is up, and you can get in contact with Amy. She'll give you the proper paperwork. Please make sure it's filed with the registry of deeds. And Amy, can you reach out to the previous one and make sure it gets registered at the registry
Yep,
of deeds?
yep. I sent a letter to every applicant
Okay.
after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. Special permit for 55 Crockett Road, application requesting special permit to add a 20-by-6 deck on the lake side of the house, which is a pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family dwelling with regard to frontage area and setback. And for those on the board who have not previously dealt with Crockett Road, everything down there is pre-existing, non-conforming.
That's correct.
Okay, sir, you want to tell us what you're doing here?
So just adding the deck on the lake side of the property, 6-foot by 20-foot deck. It is not modifying any of the existing setbacks.
Yes, I saw that, yep. I'm just looking at the map here for a second. Yeah, I mean, everything's so tight. Oh, yeah, 33 feet, 6 inches, 34 feet, 1 inch. So we're talking within this much. Any questions, concerns from the board members?
Just in that easement area, what is in that?
The easement is that there's a property, existing property overlapping our property, and they're reserving a area for ladders to be appropriately put up temporarily as necessary.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
really, that's tight, man. Are there any abutter comments or concerns? Okay. Let's give Bob a chance to, either Bob to make a chance to make a motion. Butler, you want to make a motion here?
Sure. Make a motion for approval of the special permit for 55 Crockett Road to construct the 25 6-foot deck on the lakeside home with no conditions.
With no conditions. Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Vote of the board.
Tom Spargo, aye. Bob Humes, aye.
Tom Butler, aye.
Bill Ames, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay, same thing, 20-day appeal period. Good luck, and thank you for coming before us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Sometimes you might have to coffee.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm done. Okay, variance for 50 Plain Street, application for a variance for a garage with a bedroom. Was built within 20 feet of the front setback within zone SRB, which requires a 40. Is this a new build?
It is a new bill.
Okay, well, you want to tell us what happened?
I will. So my name's Mark Menino with Billmar Construction. We were hired to do this project for Ms. Gurley. We initially set out for this garage to be parallel with the home. We turned in all the paperwork and everything, got our permits to start the job, and then we realized the septic tank was within the new addition. We couldn't do that, so we had to move it to 15 feet. I went online to check the setbacks to make sure we were okay. When I looked at the setbacks, I thought it was 20/40, the opposite way.
Okay.
It's 100% on me, I made that mistake. We're not 20 feet within, we're 32 feet away from the setback, not 20 feet.
Okay, that's-
We're over the setback irregardless, but we are 32 feet away from the lot line.
You're fortunate in that septic systems are one of the few, and topography are things that we are allowed to take into account.
Okay.
I'm assuming you've gone through Board of Health approval for the
We did
extra
everything,
bedroom?
yeah, sorry, we did.
Okay, all right. Always reach out to the board first for questions, comments, concerns on the board. Don, you got any questions or
No,
concerns?
I'm good, thank you.
Bob? No. Bob Butler? You're good? Well, the rules do allow us to take into account septic systems.
Okay.
And obviously the garage has to be on the street side of the building.
Correct.
Don, you want a chance to make a motion tonight?
Sure.
Oh,
About
sorry.
her
Oh, sorry,
comments?
Mason, I didn't ask her about her questions, concerns.
About it, we'd like to see it move forward.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. I'm very glad to hear that. Any other questions or concerns? And I apologize for not remembering to ask right off. That's great.
I may give you.
I love seeing this. Wonderful. Okay, Dawn, go for it.
We have a good fence, so we have good neighbors.
There you go. It's really wonderful when you get along.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for 50 Plain Street.
Okay. Second, anybody?
I'll second.
Eric seconds it.
Don Spargo, aye.
Oh, who's that?
Bill Langer's aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. You got a 20-day appeal period, but it sounds like you've been smart with the
Awesome.
neighbors.
I'll send you.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a
Keep contact with
holiday.
Amy then.
Thank you.
All right.
That's how I can sleep.
Yeah, septic systems, that's a scary thing to find. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Variance for 58 East Street. It's an administrative appeal. I'm going to mispronounce Ms. Yilmaz's first name, Barak, for a building commissioner zone enforcement to remove and relocate the yurt. It's an accessory structure. For those who were not on the board at the time, this matter came before us last year. But basically, the yurt got put in the wrong place. They came before us. There was a building enforcement against them because you can't build a whole building in the wrong place. And we gave a 1-year grace period for them to get it moved. And that was a pretty long grace period. I don't think we've ever given that long a grace period ever in the past. You want to tell us, sir, what you're up to? What are you here for tonight?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. First of all, I would like to be done about I tested positive this morning for COVID, so I'm joining online. Yeah, as it is said, it is a huge structure. That is a 30 feet structure in our property. That is 18 feet. The nearest part is 18 feet from the neighboring border, whereas it is supposed to be 30 feet. Even though it's an exterior structure, it's a big structure with kind of like 30 footers, concrete footers, and all that. And it is true that town has been gracious with us since the last time that we met. Yeah, the ask today would be, first of all, I want to make sure to everyone there that absolutely 100%, it is not really my intention to really keep this youth at our property. But me and my wife, with the Hopkinton, we are going, we are working towards a elderly housing project. That was the reason why we wanted the extension. We're not even going in that building in the U. We are not using it for occupancy, or we're not using it for assembly. It is literally sitting there and like that. It is really hard to disassemble and really pack and save it somewhere and then reuse it somewhere else right now. So from the last time till now, we haven't really good progress with the other project. That this youth, even in the first place, it was meant for that land as a common community building kind of structure for that elderly project. Since then, we have been really, we have the plans for it. Hopkinton Town is really excited about that project. We're working with Marketant, the land architect, and also a lawyer in the town, going through boards and permits. It is really just the timing. I completely agree. Maybe the 1 year, I mean, the stage was set like, okay, this might have been the longest grace period, but I am really not using that structure, and I am really asking this extension for a good purpose. And it's not really a shop that we use or a place that we make money. It is going to be a nice place in this elderly housing project, which is hopefully affordable housing as well. So, I mean, since things have progressed, I was going to ask for, we are asking for an extension so that we can just take this structure from our property and put it directly where it is going to be, where it is meant to be. And just make it literally no assembly, no use, nothing, just be on the land 12 feet closer than it is supposed to be to a neighbor, to the neighboring borders. Yeah, it is just this easement that we are asking for tonight. I'm not sure if my audio is clear or anything else, but I can maybe just
All right, well, then,
make
all right.
sure.
Let me turn it over to my board members to see what questions and concerns they have. As I say, this is a highly unusual affair.
So,
What is
like, this is how far we have come compared to the last time. Like, this is really 0 West Main Street, very close to Hopkinton border. And these are the elderly housing units, and this is where that building is going. It is a land with a lot of wetlands, so we are proposing really some complex solutions here with our company and lawyer in the town. They love the idea. We just really this is where it's meant to be, and we are having it tested for insulation rating. I think it's called earth rating. It's all of this is really going on, and at that point, while all this is happening, that structure is really sitting there, potentially not harming anybody, and really not creating any issue with anyone. I do understand and respect the town regulations, and I acknowledge again the leniency that we have been shown. But really, this is the purpose and the context we are in right now. That we want to really be able to move that directly into this plan.
All right, so
It looks like it's not an accessory building that is just an accessory building. It is extremely hard and costly to.
okay, sir.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep moving things along because we have such a packed agenda tonight. Have you acquired any of the permits necessary in Hopkinton? What permits have you acquired?
Yeah.
What permits have you received in Hopkinton?
I think we met 2 times with the zoning board. I mean, my wife is really driving more that project. Dave Martin is really very well known with the Hopkinton town, and he's been here all so he's really spearheading this project. The next thing we have to do is just get this perk tests, and we also have the building plans, and we did apply for the like initially we were thinking about coming from this access, and that's why we didn't apply for it's called curb cut permits, I guess. We do have these access, but then we decided that it will be I think a lot better for everyone to go through the wetland and propose this driveway. So
So, all right, the reason I'm asking is I'm familiar with how long it takes to go through this process. And am I correct in assuming that you have not obtained any permits yet or approvals? Do you have conservation approval yet?
I would say we have verbal 5. We don't have the
How about a building
it's
permit?
not the town doesn't know. No, because the building, that's what we're actually going next. We have found that they require a kind of like a detailed how these proposed units will look like.
Okay, all right, what about, do you have your Board of Health for your septic? The reason I'm asking these specific questions is you're asking us to delay again. We gave you an entire year, an entire build season to get this done. We have never given in my knowledge, anyone this amount of time. Mike, you're up at the mic. Do you have a question or comment, concern? I just want to.
I was just making myself available to clarify what the action for the board is tonight. My conversations with Mr. Yilmaz was, as he described to the board tonight, he's asking for an extension on the timeline to either move or remove that structure. And if people weren't familiar, the plan that was just shown is, if you weren't following, was in Hopkinton. That's not in Upton. He was explaining a project that he's proposing that'll ship that yurt over there to Hopkinton once approved. But the issue before the board tonight is an administrative appeal of the zoning enforcement officer / building commissioner's decision to issue a notice of violation. The board's duty tonight is to decide whether or not the building commissioner erred in issuing that notice of violation. I instructed Mr. Yilmaz that because of the request that he's asking, the only way really to ask that question or to have a conversation with the zoning board would be through this process, because the board cannot reopen a denial of a variance that happened over a year ago, right? You don't have that ability to revisit that. He doesn't have the ability to apply for that again 2 years after being denied. So it was a very gracious extension of time to recommend to the building commissioner to not enforce that until a year's time has gone. Unfortunately, October 31 came and went. November 1, the building commissioner had a duty to issue a notice of violation because it was not removed at that time. I would suggest to the board, if you have comments or suggestions that you'd like me to express to the building commissioner as far as enforcing of this violation, let me know. I don't know what that would be, but let me know.
If we do absolutely nothing, we basically let the building inspector do his job. It's what we stopped him from doing a year ago. Okay, all right. Well, I don't decide, so I'm going to put it up to my colleagues here to ask any questions or bring any concerns, and then I'm going to open it to the public as I always do.
What time limit would we be re-implementing if we grant more appeals? I mean, this could go on for 10 years if we're not careful.
I'm not sure the type of project that he's proposing is a quick pass in any community.
Well, it can be done in phases, so as long as we have the ability to put the roof in there, which it can be which one is earlier, and I mean, yes, there has been 1 year, but the key factor was we were working by ourselves. That we were trying to work ourselves with the town. It is only relatively recently that we started working with this company, like Mr. Dave and the architect, whatever the company name is, and that actually really speeded up things. That's why now I can see, based on his comments and what we are hearing from the town, that there is a path forward. It is not really me and my wife who doesn't know these things trying to really, naively trying to do this or that, but it is a legitimate, a physical plan already being proposed. Septics and tests are being proposed, the building plans are being proposed, and these things will be in phases. Like, as soon as we can actually put that thing in there, we can go and put that as the first structure. I understand and acknowledge this type of a project, which is proposed in phases, can take a long time, but it doesn't mean that the youth has to stay here for a long time. We can set yet another date. Could be, I don't know, end of June or something like that, which, based on what I'm seeing from the progress, might be a reasonable estimate to be able to put just this structure. Obviously, not the full version of this whole project we're talking about.
Well,
On the other hand, yes, I agree that 1 year, like the timeline is, yes, it is gracious. But on the other hand, the offense that I'm really proposing, or I'm like the offense that I'm doing, is really having a structure there that is sitting by itself, and that's about it. It's not really.
I understand that, but no matter what, no matter when, it's just got to come down. And
yes, it is.
If it comes down, next week, and you put it into storage or into a container, you've got like a storage container is a good thing just to hold things anyways. You'd be allowed to put it into a container, move it to wherever it's got to go. But this isn't Groundhog Day. We did this a year ago. I can't imagine. Well, anyways, it's not my opinion. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
Okay. I mean,
do you want to extend or not?
My thought is no extension. The original variance said move or remove by October 31st. So October 31st, it should have been removed.
Okay.
It's not our concern of the difficulty to disassemble or store the unit. The variance was clear, remove it by October 31st.
Okay, I see Bob, you shaking your head, I see you shaking your head.
I would agree, because they would have had time to take it down, store it somewhere, and then we can put it whenever, because we have no idea how long it would be.
Right.
Okay.
It could be a month, it could be 2 years.
Okay, all right. So, do we need a formal vote on this, or can we simply let the building inspector do his?
No, you do need a formal vote, and before you do, just a reminder to ask for a butter
Oh,
comment.
thank you, sir. Any butter comments? Because that's always an important thing to me. Butter concerns or comments? Okay, seeing none.
You need, before the board is an appeal of the decision of the building commissioner to issue the notice of violation. So the board has to determine whether or not the building commissioner erred in his decision to issue that violation. So that is the formal action needed before this board.
So the board find that the building commissioner did not err in taking enforcement action.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, vote of the board.
Don Spargo, aye.
On the inside,
Bob Butler, aye.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Sir, we're understanding we gave a year grace period. It's got to come down anyways. It might as well be now. And then you can.
So, I mean, two things. One thing is, as it was initially said, I never proposed or said that the enforcer was at error. It was only the suggested way that I could actually come here. I know that it was in violation. I think that was already made clear. I just want to stress that. Secondly, then what is the implication? Do I have 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? What is it?
The building inspector, Pat's generally a very good guy to work with. I would suggest you set up a meeting with him in the building department and go in there with a plan and his enforcement action. This is such an unusual case, I'm not familiar with all the steps. But I would say get it down as quick as possible. I don't know, has there been any fines or anything like that imposed, Mike?
No, not as of yet. Fines, the code enforcement, land use department needs to go through the court process in order to enact and collect on fines. But in violations, when they're noticed, when they're given notice, should it make it to court, the court has the ability to enact fines going back to the first day of the violation. That's extreme cases, typically, not to get into the weeds of that conversation, but
if he gets his act going and gets it down ASAP, maybe the building department, there may not be even fines imposed if he gets to that point. So I would say get it down as quick as you can and get it into some sort of safe, dry storage and get it to Hoppington, which when you get permission there, you can put it up there.
I mean, typically, through the chair, there is a 20-day appeal period after this board issues a decision. I believe we will need to issue a formal decision on this particular action that gets recorded at the clerk's office. So I'll have to double check that on Mr. Yilmaz's behalf, but there may be an appeal period that does give a little bit of reprieve from formal enforcement action until that point. Unfortunately, it's not going to stretch until June of this year, most likely.
But it might get him to be close to the end.
But typically, the way that our building commissioner works is that if you are showing progress to address an issue, he will work with you to grant you enough time if you are showing progress in that regard.
Good.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. We're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is a variance for 32 Shore Drive, application of Ian Simpson, 32 Shore Drive for setback relief for addition of a raised 20 by 14 four-season room at the back of a pre-existing non-conforming house. Addition will be 12 feet from the side lot. The current house is 15 feet from the side lot. Let me just get on the right page. Okay, sir, why don't you tell us what you're doing here?
Hi, so my wife and I would like to, sorry, Ian Simpson, 32 Shore Drive. My wife and I would like to build a four-season sunroom at the back of the house. The entire neighborhood is pre-existing non-conforming, and basically coming straight off the back of the house with the angle of the lot line just puts us a few feet closer to the lot line, and that's what we're seeking variance for. Our neighbors on that side are on board with it. They like the idea. There's already a row of trees there, and that's where our propane tanks are. It's not really used space anyways. And before we hire a builder and start paying any money, we get the variance first and make sure that we have it all clear.
Okay. Yeah, this we just had another case up in Taft Pond. It's also very narrow, a lot of pre-existing non-conforming. Okay, I understand what you're doing, and this looks like it's a room that's basically bought and just plopped into place. It looks like.
Yeah, the central mass sunrooms, and then they, kind of put together on site. They'll be raised up because it's a walkout basement, so it'll be raised up level with our existing main floor.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the board members? Question there? Questions there? Any concerns or any questions from abutters? Yes, sir.
We have no problem here.
No problem. Thank you for coming tonight, then.
Every 3/4 of the lots on Shore Drive and ours are 4.
Yeah, you're correct. But I want to, again, thank you for coming tonight. And I'm sure he appreciates it too.
Name?
Oh, they want your name.
I'm?
They want your name for the minutes.
Oh, Ed Thompson.
Thank you.
I shouldn't recognize it.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I'll take a motion. Well, you haven't given a motion tonight.
I make a motion that we grant a variance for 32 Shore Drive for requested setback for the four-season room.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Tom Spargo, aye.
Paul Williams, aye. Bob Butler, aye.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
So unanimous board, unanimous decision of the board. 20-day appeal period, just keep in contact with Amy, she does a wonderful job, and enjoy. Sounds like a really nice thing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, so here is a continued public hearing for the comprehensive permit for 47 Main Street, also known as 0 Main Street. Is Kevin and the Loberser crew not here tonight? Oh, okay, sorry, wrong glasses. You're usually sitting right up there, Kevin. Just as an update, before I let you speak, I did a little bit of my homework over the break of the last month. Some people had come to me, they mentioned sinkholes and stuff, and I was like, that's definitely a concern. I found out from a young Mr. Flaherty that unfortunately the developer, when that development up on Hazeltine was built, cut down the trees, dug up the stumps where they were low spots, they threw the stumps in them and buried them. It's not karst topography caused by limestone and water erosion. You're not supposed to bury stumps. It's not a good thing to do now. It's not even legal now. But back in the 80s when the people first got excavators, they solved all sorts of problems. But Paul was telling me that was one of the problems. I also took the time to visit the building department, Mr. Roach, and ask about if there had ever been a case of a hydrologic study being requested for a building in town, and the answer was never, like never, ever. Our attorney even sent an email, and all emails on this matter are always public, just be aware of that. Basically saying that if it's not a condition of other building projects, we can't add it in, and even we're not even supposed to ask for one if it's not a condition. We can't add extra conditions to this sort of project that other projects don't have. Now, as I said before, my number one concern is water, especially after this last week with the 4 inches we just had, 4.3 inches. It was a pretty amazing amount of water coming down. Tonight, the topic is stormwater. Kevin, I'm sure, will speak a little bit, and then we have Stan Tech here tonight to talk a little bit. And I have some very specific questions on your report, just so you know. So, Kevin, you want to let us know what's going on?
Yeah.
Go for it, Cap. Yeah, because it helps him if you're on the mic.
Well, thank you again for seeing us tonight. I think, as you mentioned, I believe the biggest part of tonight will be, I think, the representation from Stan Tech that is going to talk about his review letter. And then, obviously, Peter from DNL Design, our engineer, will be here to hopefully answer some questions and let the board know when his full responses will be sent back to Stan Tech. As an update, there's a bunch of things that have happened since our last meeting. I personally met with 11 and 13 Whitney to discuss some drainage issues that they had raised to me after the last meeting. The biggest concerns that they at that time had were that their drainage for their underground basement drainage, their pipes are daylighting sort of right at the property line, and they were concerned that with our new road, we would perhaps block the water. We were very comfortable that we would not be doing that, but to take an extra precaution, we have adjusted our drainage and we've added 2 new drainage structures and a swale system to just make sure that there's never a problem. So that's one thing we did. On yesterday, we actually met with Kevin at 52 Main Street, who lives across the street, to just look at his property. We're gonna just try to work with Kevin. I don't think our project actually has any effect on Kevin, but we're just trying to assess his property to see what his options might be. So we've agreed to help him with that. And excuse me, yesterday we also met with Andrew, the current owner of Pickering Funeral Home. They have an existing, their drainage problem is very, I guess, basic, to be honest. The wetlands that they abut are higher than their property. So when the wetlands start to fill up, they have a sheet flow problem, that ends up going across their parking lot. We have looked at that, and we agreed to try to help them resolve that problem. Our project will have we're not going to make their problem better or worse, but as hopefully a good neighbor and partner with the town, we're offering to do some engineering work and add a swale system that would direct their water to their catch basins that are on their property that currently do not pick up the water. So I think Andrew and his dad were very happy with that, and we will continue to work with them.
Well, neighborhood outreach does wonders, and I want to thank you for doing that, because I know that was something we wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do with an excavator in about 10 minutes, the rest of us couldn't dig in 10 years.
Exactly. And I mean, we don't want to pass judgment on the people that tried to help either them or the Petersons with what they tried to do.
Yeah.
But when you go there, you can kind of see that the water level is here, and the drain basins that they put in are here.
Yeah.
So you kind of look at it and say, I think I know why the water's going over the driveway. So we think we can help with that. Probably the most exciting meeting that we had was that we actually met with 20 or 24 of the neighbors. They invited me to meet in the library, and I felt like we had a fantastic 2-hour meeting. I'm assuming that maybe the people that are here don't think we did, but
I would say there's a lot less people here tonight.
well, I mean, I think it was a really good opportunity to actually talk about what's really happening, what we're doing, what we can do to help. We also explained the things that, actually another big thing that we did change after the meeting with 11 and 13 was that, we have the privacy fence on the Whitney side, and we also have a tree screening going in. Those neighbors asked us if we would be willing to put the trees on their side of the fence instead of our side of the fence. I couldn't answer that question on the site because I needed to make sure that the trees would still be on our property, because I want to make sure that we could properly maintain them, replace them, cut them, and it worked out that we could, so we've made that change as well. So the trees, the evergreens will now be on the neighbor's side.
Okay. All things I like hearing, thank you.
Yep. And then the only other thing for an update would be, I think the board knows, but based on the neighbors' feedback, the traffic counts for Fisk Ave, we're waiting until, I'm not sure, when is it?
Until January.
January.
Okay.
That was the neighbor's request.
Yeah, and Stantec brought it up too, and
Yep.
the chief of police
So
brought it up too.
that's what we're doing.
Okay.
So I think it's probably Stantec's floor right now, I guess.
I'm gonna I always try to give it to my
Yeah,
members.
oh, sorry.
Do you guys have any questions or concerns for Kevin?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, okay. Because I'm just a member, I'm not him. All right, I'll do that. Do you want to give just a synopsis, and then I have some very specific questions.
Okay.
But you get a mic.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Glenn, project manager, senior civil engineer at Stantec. What I want to go over tonight is we've done a peer review of the project. We looked at some of the civil aspects of the project along with the stormwater design of the project. Reviewed the plans, reviewed the drainage study that was submitted as part of the application. And what I'd like to do is just highlight some of our comments in our letter report, and obviously feel free to take any comments from the board or from the public if you not desired. This letter stated December 15th, 2023, assuming everybody has a copy of the letter. What we did is, our initial comments on page 1, we discussed some of the civil aspects of the project. We used the town site plan bylaw as a template for our review of the site plan itself. On page 2 of the letter, we have a number of items that we identified that we recommend be addressed by the applicant. I'll go through each one very quickly and talk a little bit about them. One of the items was landscaping. We recommend that the site plan identify the additional landscape features that are going to be retained, including any trees that are over 6 inches in diameter or greater. I really didn't see that clearly on the site plan as to what will be maintained for existing landscape features out there, especially tree canopies and so forth and so on. Another comment we had was the existing water line, looking for the status of review with the Upton DPW. They do have an 8-inch water line tying into a water line out on Main Street. We're just looking to see if it's been reviewed by the town and they have any comments at all regarding basically pressure, capacity, this sort of thing. We have not reviewed the water at this point, but we're just making that note to the board. They should be getting input from the town on that. Also, in addition to the water line, location of hydrants on the plan, recommend those be reviewed by the fire department and approved by the fire department. We didn't really see any hydrant locations on the site plan, so I recommend that be reviewed by the fire department for safety.
Yeah. And I know just from the last meeting, the last building, they'll want them in before you really get going on the
Yeah,
construction.
we actually have 3 of them on the plan.
Good.
Okay, maybe
Yeah, so, oh, yeah, no problem.
It's small print sometimes. Okay.
I guess staying with the fire department, we'd also recommend that the training equipment be provided within the site itself so that fire apparatus can make the turns around the actual access road itself, get to the building and have proper access for fire safety also. So I guess we recommend some comments or some correspondence to be provided by the fire department regarding these issues.
And this, I believe, is being this is a sprinkled building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like to see that. Okay.
Regarding sewer, similar comments, just looking for some input from the town DPW regarding the sewer main tie-in that they're proposing. Again, size of the line, whether there is capacity or any capacity issues with the line that's out there now. And we're also looking for a profile of the sewer line to be provided on the plans also. In regard to the drainage system, we're recommending a drainage system profile also be provided on the plans. Give us more information on the design of the closed system, cover up the pipe, sizes of the pipe, and just how the system functions within the access drive itself. Additional comments we have on parking, recommended some calculations be provided on the plan, identifying the proposed parking being provided and required parking as per the site plan bylaw. Identify fire lanes, loading areas, and compact visitor parking or visitor parking should be or compact parking that's being proposed within the site that should be identified on the plan with proper signage.
Just a quick question for you. Have you done, and I know, I believe we formally approved you guys having engineer-to-engineer discussions ahead of time. Can we do that? Have you guys taken advantage of that?
We have not to this point. We have especially reviewing our plan. Obviously, we'll follow up and have a further discussion. But now that we have our comments, I'm sure.
Because some of these are, some of these are very specific things, like, basically cutaway drawings and stuff like that. It's okay. We've just, we have given permission for you to work at an engineering level together. So that will make things a little bit easier. Sorry to interrupt.
Had a comment on rubbish collection, recommended additional detail on the screening type of containers being proposed on the site plan. That information wasn't on the plan. And then a general note, again, as per the site plan review, there's usually a general note that states that the contractor shall give 24-hour notice to town departments before commencing any work. And that's a general comment on the site plan requirements, so that should be added to the plan. Those were our general comments on the civil site component of the plan. On page 3, we get into a general discussion of the stormwater management system. The system that's proposed out there, it's basically an open and closed storm drainage system, includes drain manholes, catch basins, piping, there's several stormwater basins, and a subsurface infiltration system that's proposed on the plan for drainage. When we did our review, the comprehensive permit regulations require design meet the 10 performance standards of the Mass DEP stormwater standards. So our letter pretty much went through each of the 10 standards and we commented on each one of those standards when we did our review of the calculations in the plan. The first standard is with regard to outfall discharges. The standard requires no untreated stormwater and no erosion be required at the outfalls. We're recommending that the project provide additional calculations on the actually outfall themselves, the velocities, so that we can confirm the size of the stone riprap armor will prevent any erosion at the outfall locations. Another comment we had was one of the footprints of one of the settling basin number 3. The actual outfall is located within the 30-foot no disturbance of the wetland protection local bylaw. We recommend that item be reviewed with the local conservation commission due to the location within that 30-foot buffer. Standard 2 discusses mainly pre and post development of surface runoff. We reviewed the HydroCAD analysis, which was the software that was used. We had some concern, or was looking for more information on, there's an existing culvert out there on Main Street. We're recommending that information be provided on the plan, and we want to confirm that right now the design doesn't show any flow going to that culvert. We want the applicant to further evaluate that and see if any drainage area does go to that culvert on Main Street. On the actual hydraulic analysis report itself, there was some discrepancy between some of the sub-catchment areas, which are some of the drainage areas within the project itself. It's more of a labeling procedure, but there was some confusion as to how the drainage area plan agree with some of the calculations. So we're just looking for some confirmation on that.
That was the one I was most concerned on, was the second of the POIs. Because I didn't know if that's something we needed to be concerned that, you know, your HydroCAD had a different peak flow than.
Right, that's another comment we had was the actual analysis. There's a summary sheet in the stormwater report which summarizes the peak flows and the volumes. The report analysis did not agree with the summary sheet that's in the actual study itself, so we're looking for, again, clarification on that. It should be, you know, obviously they should agree with one another. The analysis should agree with the actual calculations, so we're looking for clarification on that also for the report.
Okay, so you're just clarifying something there.
Then one of our other comments on the peak flows were we're looking for some additional calculations on the closed drainage system. The way the report presents the analysis is the stormwater basins are designed up to the 100-year storm. And a lot of these basins receive the drainage from the closed drainage system. So what we're looking for was additional calculations for the closed drainage systems for different storm events to make sure the area is going to be tributary to that particular stormwater basin. The concern was that the system cannot get into the stormwater basin, it may bypass the stormwater basin. And, you know, the analysis is assuming everything is getting into these stormwater basins. So, again, we're looking for more backup documentation to confirm that.
Okay. All right.
Standard 3 references groundwater recharge. And our comment on page 4, we had some concern or looking for further clarification on 2 of the stormwater basins or infiltration basins, and the applicant did a number of test pits in the area to confirm. Usually you want to confirm soil conditions, whether you're running into any ledge, high groundwater, these sort of things, if that's going to affect the design of the stormwater basin or the infiltration basin. Reviewing the actual test pits, it showed some areas where there was potentially high seasonal groundwater, about 2 feet below the ground. Looking at the plans, it looks like some of these basins are getting excavated out 2 or 3 feet. So we are concerned whether these basins will actually function as an infiltration basin due to the seasonal high groundwater. And then along that same line, there's a cross-section of the basins. We're looking for additional information on that cross-section, again, to identify the existing grade, proposed grade, and estimated seasonal high groundwater, so that can be further defined on the plans. We had a comment on the actual stage storage worksheets. Some of that had to be relabeled. There was a little confusion as to what detention basin or stormwater basin in reference to the actual stage storage worksheet. And then our last comment was on the drawdown calculations for the infiltration basins, use a certain K value, which is associated with the soils. The K value they used was not in agreement with the actual soil logs that were taken, so again, that needs to be clarified.
Yeah. What type of soil down there makes a big difference with how, what infiltrates. But
Right, now that's our point. It seemed like the infiltration rate they used didn't agree with the actual soils that are out there. Standard 4, that gets more into water quality for stormwater. It gets into TSS removal, which the state requires 80% TSS removal. And it also calls for a certain volume for water quality volume. We're looking for the applicant to submit worksheets showing that the 80% TSS removal is being proposed at each outfall location. And then we're looking for clarification on the actual amount of impervious area, the increase in impervious area on site. There was a couple values that were ID'd in this report that didn't agree with other sections of the analysis. So again, we're looking for that total increase in impervious to be defined by the applicant, because that affects the actual water quality volume that you have to provide. On page 5, standard 5 talks about higher pollution loading locations. The site's not in that area, so that standard 5 is not applicable. Standard 6 talks about stormwater discharges to critical areas. Again, that project site is not applicable for that standard. Step 7 talks about a redevelopment project. And we made a misstatement that this project is not a redevelopment, so the standard is not applicable. I think we had said something different in our notes. That was just an error on our part. Okay. For standard 7. Standard 8 requires a erosion control plan be provided for the project. We're recommending the erosion control plan include a construction sequence for the project itself, provide additional details of some of the erosion control that's being provided on site, recommend a maintenance plan, inspection program be provided, and a construction sequence be provided, in addition to the location of stockpiles of material, staging areas during construction. These are components that should be shown on the actual erosion control plan. And then we make note that the project will require NIFTY's general construction permit, which is an EPA permit, federal permit, and that should be required to be submitted to the board prior to construction. Okay. Standard number 9 talks about a long-term maintenance plan that was included as part of the report, so that's addressed. And then standard 10 is an illicit discharge statement, and we did not see that in the report, so we're recommending that statement be provided by the applicant.
Okay. Did the new swales that you added get put into what David got sent?
No. That was just a couple weeks ago.
That's a couple weeks ago. But I'm very glad that you did those meetings. I sound like, to me, it's a good idea, really good idea. David, I would say that, you know, some of these are very technical areas and very specific recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us that are not engineers, I would strongly recommend or request that you guys get together and basically you work for the town here and just basically tell us right out, you know, what concerns you have that you haven't been able to amicably resolve. I know in the past when you've brought concerns to Kevin usually gets them straight taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a perfect opportunity for a working meeting between the two of you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure we'll be meeting. I guess my only comment would be whether anybody from the board or Mike, whether you want to be present for any of these meetings, or how does the board want to proceed?
Yeah, that would say yes.
I'll attend the meeting,
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
as long as it's not in the next 7 days.
Yeah, no.
Monday morning.
No, Monday morning. Yeah, no, that's not a problem. You know, these are very technical issues, especially when you want to make sure that, you know, something from a certain K value. Well, I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck is a K value? So I look it up and not much on potassium lately. But I want to turn it over to the board as quickly as I can to make sure they have questions and concerns for you. And Mike, also, anything you want to throw in there, but I'll start with you guys too. If you have questions.
So something regarding, the first point was the landscaping, the recommend site plan, identify the existing landscaping features to be retained. Is that's for the whole area,
The whole side itself, I mean, obviously there's a fair amount of trees out there, wooded areas, there's stone walls out there, there may be other landscape features. So what we're looking for is to try to identify what's going to be saved, I should say, but to try to be retained as part of the construction process. That's clearly not shown on the plan, so and there's a lot of, decent sized trees out there, so we're looking for more clarification of what sections of the property they may want to try to preserve, the biggest landscape features out there.
got it. Yeah, is that who typically does that? They do that themselves, or they bring someone in?
They would show it on a plan. I mean, they would have to show, if there's decent sized caliber trees out there, they should identify the trees, say these are going to be retained. So during construction, they know that these areas, are going to be tried to be retained as part of the construction process.
Okay.
But unless it's on a plan, nobody's going to know, where the limits of work is basically.
Okay. So is that something that you've heard the concerns, and that's when you guys are going to meet and talk about that and come up with something?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna work with Dave on all of that stuff. I mean, I can say that, in 28 years, we've never done a project in Upton where we actually had to go out and identify all those trees, like one by one, so I will say that we're hoping that we're not gonna have to do that. I think our project is, very self-explanatory where it is, so to Dave's point, I think we can probably do a much better job of showing the lines of what's not gonna be touched, because the areas that we're not touching, we're just simply never going in there. So it's not like we're going to go into the woods and selectively cut certain things. We're cutting what we have to cut, and everything else is staying. So I think we can make Dave happy. Yeah, I'm confident we can work on everything on the list. So.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good.
Through the chair, I'll just add, I've already forwarded the requests for additional information from the DPW and fire department. So I'm just waiting for a response from them to provide to the board and to Stantec ahead of the next meeting.
Okay. Either Bob or Eric, any questions, concerns? Thank you very, very much. And I really appreciate all the work that you're doing and will work. It's a very, very, very detailed analysis. I'm seeing the attorney up there. Chris, do you have a question or concern?
No questions, no concerns. I'm glad that Mike just noted that we'll be reaching out to the fire department and the DPW to get information to make sure that the fire department's happy and to get more information about the sewer line and water line. So I'm happy to hear that. I would ask respectfully that the applicant's engineer respond directly in this document so that there's one document. So his responses can be all in one document so that we can see here's the comments, here's the applicant's response, and then so on and so forth. So if you guys could share documents, I would appreciate that to make a clean record.
Maybe you put yours in like red or something so we can tell, back and forth.
I understand.
And you guys can, we want to make sure that they work it out to your satisfaction, that everything's going to be okay. Okay? All right. If the board doesn't have any question, Mike is going to go for you, and then I was going to let you.
I was just going to make mention again that any and all comments that I'm receiving for the board for this is obviously getting forwarded to the board. It's getting forwarded to the applicant, so we all are working off the same information. We all have the same information. It's also being posted onto the website with all of the application materials showing also all written public comment that is submitted. So I say that to mention that the board probably saw, I got an email from Mr. Patrick Hurley today just requesting what you opened the meeting with, the request for the hydrological geological study. And then also there was a request on his behalf asking the applicant to break down the individual components of the wetlands bylaw that they're asking waivers from. That was
Right, and we're gonna want a very specific waiver list as we go forward.
And also, in regards to the waiver list, the applicant did email me questions about, this is a minor one, but about designation of setbacks to clarify within the waiver list, what is the, because it's an odd property in the sense that it kind of swings. So it's like, what's the rear yard, what's the side yard? I believe what they submitted is what we will consider the rear yard and side yard, but I've asked Pat Roach, the building commissioner, to confirm that for the purposes of clarifying their waiver list.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I always want to make sure that the public gets an opportunity to bring their questions to the engineer too. So I'll open it up. Does anyone have any questions or concerns that they would like to have the engineer address?
This is more for the town, but the link doesn't work on the website for the
Yep, we
stormwater
discussed that
review.
before, and I will look into it tomorrow. Yeah.
Is that new as of today?
Right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm live
Thank
right
you.
now, and it gives me an error page. It says, we're sorry, but there's not a web page matching your entry. All I did was click on the link.
That's great.
All right, thank you.
Oh, that's different than what we discussed before.
This is the 47 Main Street 40B application civil stormwater review, correct? The last link on the bottom of the page?
Yeah,
I'm looking into it now.
The last thing.
That's what this report is, correct? That's the title of this report?
Oh, yeah, it's not popping up. Okay, I'll fix that.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing that stuff. I will say, overall, and I'm sorry we have a technical glitch there, but I've just been amazed at how, that the fact that they're getting everything on there. And every email that we have, because we try to keep our conversations completely, like we don't do conversations on purpose. But if I get sent an email from Stantec or from an attorney, all that is public record, and you guys have complete right to that. And just to let you know, that's how we operate. That's why we don't discuss this unless we're here in a public meeting. Anyone else have a question or concern? And thank you for bringing that up. Yes, sir.
I was told that today was going to be the session where we discuss the traffic on this. Was there a delay? Did something happen?
They haven't got the traffic study done.
Did something occur? I know I had some emails back and forth with you all. A couple of indicates that it was hard to get out of the house. So I'd love it if in the future we know exactly what the agenda is going to be.
Yeah, sorry. The neighbors in the previous meetings asked us to delay the traffic count just because there was construction going on, so they wanted to get the full, traffic. Right, they wanted to normalize, so that was what we kind of decided after the last meeting that wasn't acceptable, so they will be doing the traffic count in January, so I imagine we won't be able to talk about it until February or March. We can definitely update you. If you want to give me your number, I'll let you know, when we ever, once it's done, we're going to plan on discussing it again.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
Yeah, they were doing a lot of water main work.
I live on that.
Oh, okay, so you lived it then, yeah. And the neighbors didn't feel it was an appropriate, it would have been an appropriate study at that time.
Makes sense. I missed the last meeting. I was out of business.
Oh, sorry, okay. Anyone else? Sorry, I saw someone else. I thought I saw someone else.
Yeah, I was just,
Yes, sir.
I take objection to the comment you made that the opinion Mr. Flaherty offered about the sinkholes is not accurate. No developer would dig a sinkhole in every property and bury stumps in every one. We put one at the end. I owned one of those in Uxbridge. It's the last house built, and that's where they buried everything. But you don't do it up in front where you're showing houses. And the other thing is, if Mr. Flaherty's such an expert, get him in here, because he can tell us what they did with that stream when they rerouted it. There's water in the ground there.
We have
and
names
sir,
and
sir.
addresses
All right.
also.
I'm just saying, you've heard the name, your name?
Richard Kennedy,
Richard Kennedy, and address, sir. And address, sir.
22 Hazeltine Road.
Thank you. I agree. There's unfortunately multiple developments that have had this issue. The worst one was off of River Street, where the sinkhole showed up right under the person's driveway. And that's, when they dug it out, that's what they found. If you would like to say that the comment's hearsay, absolutely, you can say that. But Paul's someone I trust. So Paul tells me that's what happened. I trust him. I've known him a long time, probably too long. Anyways, yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Andrews, you had stated that a hydrogeological study is not a standard procedure for this type of project. Stantec seems to have a lot of concerns around the water flow issues, so my question to Stantec is, if you did have a hydrological study, would this help to answer these questions regarding the water flow issues?
The report that we presented to the board really focuses on more stormwater runoff, overland flow, and not really groundwater or geotechnical, hydrogeologic analysis. So that's really a different type of study that we have not mostly received or not reviewed. The bulk of our comments is on the stormwater runoff, which is more overland flow, and that's really tied in again to the DEP stormwater standards. So really they talk about stormwater runoff, water quality, this sort of thing, whereas groundwater, that's a different topic for discussion. And like I said, at this point, the applicant hasn't submitted that sort of report.
Does your firm ever do that kind of a study? Has Stantec ever done a hydrogeological study?
We have staff. I mean, I'm not a hydrogeologist, so, but we do have staff in our company that would review a report or do a report, yes.
Okay.
The challenge comes from is, it's like when you're playing a game, there's a set of rules, and everyone's got to play by the same rules. The state's not going to allow us to have a different set of rules depending on whether we like the project or we don't like the project. We all have to play by the same set of rules. And even if we requested it, then the applicant would have the right to go to the state and say, hey, he's asking us to go play by a different set of rules. And the state would toss that out.
Aren't all the different projects dependent on the parcel that you're developing though? Because this one in particular has wetland concerns, whereas like 149 Main Street didn't really have those type of concerns.
They all still go by the same rules. And I'm going to, whenever a lawyer, especially our lawyer, recommends a certain course of action, it's very expensive to ignore your own lawyer's advice. And you're usually going to lose if you do. So if a lawyer has recommended that you can't have a different set of rules for everybody, I'm going to follow. Me personally, this is my personal opinion. It's the board's right to make their own opinion. They each have their own opinion, and they're entitled to that. But I'm just telling you what the advice of our attorney was on this matter.
I find it confusing though, because I know Ashland, Massachusetts had a similar 40B project and they had a hydrogeological study. So why do they have a different rules of Ashland versus Sutton?
Every town adopts their own rules. We are following the rules that Upton currently has. If you would like to get those rules changed, there are procedures for changing the rules, but we have to follow the rules as they are currently written, if that makes sense. Okay? But I would strongly suggest, if you're really concerned, would that be a planning board thing?
The comprehensive permit rules and regulations, I believe, are adopted by this board through public hearing.
Okay. But I'm saying hydrologic rules. Like we did do, they've already done the deep, you've done the deep test. I know Mary over from Conservation was out there and already looked what the soil profile was. Ironically, it's what mine is right across the street. I'm just down I'm like 500 feet from this place. And the soil is basically the same. Probably, it was that coarse gray stuff down as you get down deep. Yeah, it's a, what do you call it, glacial? Glacial till, it's a very coarse, it's almost like a ground up granite, it's almost like a really coarse sand, which you're absolutely right, that water goes through that phenomenally well. And there absolutely is water up there. You can drive around town right now and see all sorts of springs popping out through every little hillside. There's a nice little stream right down the road for me, just coming right up out of the ground. Water definitely, especially to get a 4-inch rain, does flow through the ground. It absolutely does. What our concern is I don't want there to be a gallon more water going from this property to anybody else's property. And what I'm most excited about is that they're taking the time and they're being smart and finally meeting with some of the neighbors and listening to the concerns. And it sounds like they're even going to help some of the neighbors. And I would say that those meetings must have been phenomenally successful because this place was packed the first night. And as the anxiety over the project has dropped, the number of people, and so I would say, keep up with the community outreach, keep finding out what those neighbors are concerned about, and those that are reasonable that you can ameliorate, that is really something I would praise. Any other questions or concerns that you have for Stantec?
No, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dave, I'm sorry if I...
No, specifically.
Okay, all right.
The standard you use for surface water is based on the average rainfall in the state or the average rainfall in the area?
The analysis they do is for anywhere from a 2-year storm up to a 100-year storm event. And there's certain charts or precipitation tables you use that give you what the rainfall amount is, usually over a 24-hour period. So that's what is included in the actual drainage analysis. So they have if you look at the drainage analysis of a 2-year, 10-year, 25, and a 100-year storm event, and that uses rainfall charts, which are standard charts that are used throughout the state. And they basically come up with a surface flow of water, based on that rainfall, based on the soil conditions, and based on the type of surface treatment you have out there, whether you have grass, impervious area, this sort of thing. So there's a variable factors that come into play, but you come up with a flow of water, basically, peak flow of water. So that's what the analysis does.
Is that adjusted every year? Because like the storm this past week, would you consider that water? 2-year storm?
The tables have been changing over the years, yes. And a lot of the state agencies are pushing different rainfall events because obviously of the climate change that's been going on and the rainfall amount. So that is something that is currently being changed by various.
But it doesn't affect the current permitting process. We go with the
That's
old guidelines.
sort of lagging a little bit behind, to be honest with you, because obviously it takes time to change regulations and requirements. So they have been updated over the years, but they're still probably not where they should be if some people look at the current rainfall we're getting nowadays, but they definitely have been updated. Some of the old charts dated back to like the 80s. They've been updated, so now you're using something around 2000, maybe 2005. So they are being updated, but as of like today, they're not updated that frequently. It takes time.
Sir.
So I just want to comment on the rainfall event.
Yep.
I use NOAA 14, which is higher rainfall amounts than the regular TR 44. That is norm. That's what we used to use. So I used higher rainfall events. So like, just to give you an example, the 100-year storm event, if we did it a couple years ago, it would be like 6.9 inches. I designed for 7.85 inches. So I designed, the design that I submitted went with the higher numbers, higher rainfall amounts, because I knew that there was concern about runoff. And
thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to, while you're talking about it, just wanted to say that.
Excellent. No, thank you. Because that's just very specific information that's much needed. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Chris Wolf. I'm at 25 Hazleton Road. I'm at the bottom of the Hazeltine area where the wetlands are. And I've been tracking this behind you, Mr. Andrews.
Yeah.
And I've been tracking this
for the last, and I have pictures of the last 5 years. I cannot believe the difference of the standing water that I have behind my property than even 5 years ago. So, you know, it's a huge difference. I'm up, thank goodness my house is at a higher elevation, you know, and I am looking down at the water. As I said, I've been tracking this, you know, because it gets very scary at times, especially with the rain event we had. You know, I'm worried that, you know, what's going to happen next.
Yeah, that's
So, but as I said, it is definitely, the water table is definitely changing back there, and it's rapidly.
Right, and it's stabilizing all the trees in there.
Right, yeah, I don't have, as I said, I'm the one, I've had 2 trees fall, one on my house, you know, several on my property. Even during this event, there was a tree, you know, we heard of it, you know.
Yeah, it was a pretty ferocious storm.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he's taking, you know, the higher standards. I don't know that we can ever have a standard that can predict everything. That's why you have to use the 100-year storm too. I don't know what I don't think you're not really asking a question. You're making a really good point. And I think we've said over and over again, and these guys have heard us, and they need to keep hearing us. Number one concern is water. You know, we obviously know that's a pretty big hill. Just think of with 4 inches of rain, how many gallons of water fell on that hill during that storm? And that wetland at the bottom, you know, some of it's on my property. We've got standing water there. I gotta give the engineers credit though. I'm standing out there in the worst of the storm. It's a new property, I'm worried. And I'm looking at the wetland flags. And by golly, whoever, the guy who I hired to do it was like a map across the yard and the water was right there. And then it got a little bit higher when it really got crazy, but it did recede back. But I'm very concerned about that. I'm hopeful that the swales that you're adding, if you can get those updates to him, and then get the two of you two to work together, and keep addressing the concerns that you have, because really we're hiring you because you're smarter than us on this, and get their concerns to the water. I know it sounds like Kevin's listening and adding those things, because I'm concerned too.
Well, when does the DPW come into play for all of this too? Because, you know, as I said, I'm saying, is there, again, the water is rushing down Hazeltine into that drain, and it seems like there's something clogging, there's something going on.
Yeah.
We had just recently on School Street by your house.
Yeah,
there was an issue.
The water
you know,
main.
what is happening? It's very disturbing.
Yeah, the water main broke there. It's the 3rd time it broke. The pipe that's in there is a cement. It's actually cement with asbestos. It was an 8-inch line. Unfortunately, it was put in the 50s, and it has a shelf life of 50 to 70 years. And it's now 70-something, 74 years since it was put in. My neighbors, the whole, completely unrelated to it. It's like his yard is jello. I have brought it, the culverts are in poor repair. I've personally been down to the DPW to mention that. I've had the DPW director out there twice because some of the culverts are starting to collapse, so you get the ground is actually collapsing down into it. And so I've brought him out there twice already. DPW does not do, they're not gonna like drain a swamp for you. That's not what they'll do, but they are in charge of those culverts. I did not get a date from the DPW director, but it does sound like School Street is on their list for getting those culverts redone, because they're failing at this point. The steel, galvanized steel culverts that rust out after 50 years, and that's what's happening right now. So I do know DPW is aware of it, but the more that they hear that and the concerns, that's probably not a bad thing if you let them know too.
I call weekly.
I think Bill's a nice guy down there.
I know, they're all very nice.
Yeah.
And
I just think.
They're tired of me calling, but as I said, it's a huge concern. You know, you see the water encroaching close to my home.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Well, I'm only about
I know, you're very
foot and
close.
a
I'm
half
helping
above.
Ellie Bill, help me.
Yeah, I own 6 canoes because I'm a canoe nut, so I might need them. You know, again, I paid the money and had an engineer. That's why my house is way up in the air instead of down low. And I put a gravity feed drain in, and throughout the storm, it was feeding just the way it was. But I didn't put a 4-inch pipe in. I put a 6-inch, 3,500 PSI sewer main down there, so it's not going to get crushed. And so I do have a little trust in the engineers. My property stayed bone dry through the worst of that storm, and that was a bad storm. So I trust the engineers a lot. But I do want the engineers working together, and you're going to watch out for our interests, I hope. Keep, or I should say, continue to. All right, any other questions from the public? Because it's been a long, yes, sir.
For him
Yes.
specifically?
She's raised her hand, so I'm going to let her, I'm sorry, I forgot you.
Okay. No, go ahead, Masha.
No, it's not specifically for you, sorry.
Neither is mine.
Okay, should we let you off the hook so you don't have to stand there?
Sure, I can sit.
We'll let you off. Okay.
All right.
Any questions, concerns to you guys? Okay. As we're rounding this up, do you have a new concern? Because we've already addressed the others, and I wanted to thank you for giving those. Do you have a new concern that you want to bring to the table tonight?
I have a different twist on something you brought up.
What's that, then?
And that is, I appreciate that you went and looked into the sinkholes.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, some of them might be buried wood, but I don't believe all of them are, because you'll find them under people's decks, under foundations, under chimneys. And that isn't where a builder would bury things, is where they're putting in a foundation. Now, the other thing is when you're talking about the hydrogeological survey, there aren't many places where people who have grown up here said, by the way, you have streams under your neighborhood. And when they built the memorial school, I had people who grew up here said, before your neighborhood was built and they dug in, they had flooding in the rest of the town. Now, I'm trying to find old newspapers or something, but since I don't have dates, it's kind of hard to do. But it's not often you hear that a development is built on streams that were buried. And it's an unusual situation. And I know that people said that water up above is not to be worried about because water flows down and it will be dealt with down there. But I do have, can I give a quick demo? I just want to show you what I'm concerned about. And I think seeing this will kind of clarify what we've been talking about.
You're really pushing the boundaries of what I'm willing to go for. The only thing that's holding me here is the fact that I'm curious.
Okay.
I just, as an FYI, I used to teach science and geology, so you better be on tack here, or I won't have a lot of leeway.
As Marcia sets that up, I just want to let people know, I fixed the link. It should work now.
So those links, those get posted to the website prior to the agenda.
As soon as I
You're
get
not gonna make a
things
mess,
that are
are you?
submitted,
I
I
have
throw it up
a
on
thing
the-
right here, I'll
Is there a way
touch it,
to-
don't
so
worry.
the townspeople know when that is updated? Like, is there an email?
If you have to sign up for anything related to the ZBA,
You don't get the notices of the updates.
There's no notice yet?
Just of the agenda and meetings.
all right, so I don't know if anyone knows this, but we have a new website.
Yeah, we know.
And we are as frustrated as you are with it. But we will talk to Kathleen tomorrow, who's our liaison to the website, and I will let her know. So is everyone signed up for ZBA and they're not getting any notifications?
Sorry, guys.
I'm-
To the agenda, but that's.
I'm doing this right over the edge.
Okay, and basically,
Okay, we have a house that was built on a foundation, and part of it is over water, the underground water, the streams that were buried. Water will find the flow for the least resistance. So if we put this here, And we know these are going somewhere, and my concern is it's going into the hill, going down to 47 Main Street. And if that's true, and they dig in and they hit one of these, then this is going to end up causing issues for people with foundations, and the thing could.
You know what? I appreciate your effort. You have brought a smile to my face tonight. I'm as a teacher from who taught this, I'm gonna give you the change of this slightly. People have the idea that underground rivers are these tunnels flowing through the ground like a lava tube in Hawaii. Take a pile of sand or rock, whatever, put the house on top of that, and fill it with water. And with the rock, now once it's compacted, okay, you cut that balloon, you drill a hole in the side of the container and let the water drain out. Water is constantly flowing through all the spaces between all the sand and all the rocks that are under it. It is not a balloon under there. I used to take, it was aquariums, and I'd put all the different soils in it, and we'd put water in it, and I would actually put red food dye in to show how pollutants could go through the underground aquifer. But it's not a balloon under there. I would love you to go out with the Board of Health on the next perk test and watch. Because the whole process is they dump a big bucket of water in the ground, let it drain out so that you know the water's saturated, and then they dump another big bucket of water in the ground, and they time how long it takes for the water to flow out. We've got an engineer here. Would you say that's a fair description of a perk test?
Yes.
And the ground does not subside from this. It is a common, everyday thing for water to flow through the ground beneath us. Underneath us right now, there is water flowing from this part towards the ground. So I respect you. I respect that you came to us tonight with that. I love that you brought a smile to my face. But I just want you to understand, when you have a new concern, okay, we've had an opportunity for you to express your concern. I want to appraise you for coming up and expressing yourself before. But tonight is about what's the new thing. And
then can I ask you another question? When they built Memorial School and they had that flooding, if they did a perk test, a perk test is one spot. My concern is there really is an underground stream that we don't hit in a perk test, and there is moving water. So why did it flood like that when they dug if all the water is just disseminated?
it depends on so many factors that this gentleman here would go into, but like how, if you accumulate all that water with pavement, so instead of it infiltrating a little by little everywhere, and it all has a chance to, instead of, it goes in one or two places instead of a little bit everywhere, because you have an impervious surface, that can affect it. A lot of buildings can affect that. So
it will seek the path of least resistance, the water.
It's already doing that.
And it's going downhill, which concerns me that those fingers of the glove do exist somewhere, and we don't know where they are.
But not as a, springs go right through the rock and the soil and the sand. Particularly the type of soil that is under this project. Now, I don't know what's up on Hazelton. I didn't see the perk test, but I did hear they did the deep hole test, and I know what's under there. I would love you to take some of that soil, put it in an aquarium at the tilt, and you can put in gallons of it, and it will just flow right through it. It will, the first few times when you disturb that soil, get loose, and it will compact it, and it will drop it on what the ratio is of that. But once it's been compacted, on my property, that when we did it, we actually took a garden hose and soaked it to force it to be compacted. The water makes it settle in a little bit. I don't know if you have, but that was one of the tricks that they were doing to try to, because I didn't want to have my foundation on something that would But I need you to, how about this? How about you and I get together, and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
I understand the perk test, but I believe that underground streams do exist in a different,
Under different, like if, for
Different
example, if we had limestone, there can be rivers under there, and you do get what's called karst topography, which are sinkholes where whole houses can get swallowed. And you'll find that in the south, in particular Florida. It's very common karst topography down there. Karst topography is primarily associated with limestone, which we do not have. Kevin, what's the depth? Did you guys hit bedrock when you did your deep hole, or did you just all the glacial till?
All glacial till.
All glacial till. So then you hit bedrock. The bedrock here is primarily a granite. There is some gneiss in some areas, but it's not limestone. So you should feel safer knowing it's not limestone. Glacial till is a good material. What you don't want is clays, because clays can hold water. And that's why we're going to put in the condition that he would never put clay in his driveway, but we're going to make sure he doesn't clay his driveway, because then it could act like a dam. But thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question. Michael said we could ask for a hydrogeological study to be done.
That
Even though
was
the lawyer
something
just-
that was prior to communication with that gentleman.
Right, not asking you, we can ask the applicant, right? You can't mandate it. Can we not ask for it?
He's on the screen there, and I can read.
Sure.
You want to address that?
Yeah, sure. Basically, what the rule is if it isn't in your local bylaws, and that could be anywhere, usually the zoning bylaws or planning board regulations, if there isn't a requirement locally, we can't make an exception to require something from a 40B applicant.
Right, we're not required.
It's that simple. Having said that, I did tell the chairman that we could ask for it, but the applicant would be very much in his right to say no. So I'm happy, Mr. Chairman, if you would like, I would happy to have that conversation directly with the applicant to just address that issue and see if they want to even consider it, but it can't be used against them if they say no, and they would be well in their rights to say no.
Yeah. Which, neither here nor there. I mean, we pay him good money to give good advice. The interesting thing, though, is if you look up what a hydrologic study is, a lot of it is a brand new floor. Well, thank you for doing
There's
that.
only a couple drops.
That's fine, thank you. This is actually meant for eating, right? One of the primary things is the deep hole tests. If you want more information, and maybe they can provide it, or if you don't trust them, Mary from the Conservation Office was there to observe those tests. She's a wonderful lady, and very, very smart and very informed. And I listen to her advice a lot. She's been very, very helpful. And she might tell you more about those holes, deep hole tests. I only got the Cliff Note version. But you might want to have a conversation with Mary to find out what went along. But if you would like, I'm completely willing to go in my own backyard, dig up some of that gray stuff, because I've got it too, and show you what I was referring to, how the water goes through it. Because it really goes through it really well. I had a piece of land I was selling that we did that test with, the perk test that we just described. And the guy was like jumping for joy for me, because if you were going to put a septic system in, it's great soil to have a septic system in. You want something that the water can flow through. I don't know what's under your street though. This is where his is, which is a little closer to where my house is.
So are we not going to let the question go through?
I'm not making that decision. That's
Right, but
these
you
guys.
asked.
See, this is all of them. And I'm not dodging my responsibility, I'm respecting their opinion.
Through the chair, per Attorney Alford's suggestion, you just want to defer to him to have that conversation with the applicant, see if there's something that can be.
I mean, I can cut to the chase. This is getting kind of painful. We're not going to be doing the hydraulic testing. I mean, we're going to work with Stantec. We're going to work through every concern that they have. If we bump into something that for some reason we can't fix it and make them happy, we'll adjust. We'll do what we have to do. But as I said at the first meeting, I'm 28 years in developing. I have never done this. I've never done it, not just in Upton, but in probably 17 or 18 other towns. I just don't, it's a very expensive thing to find out that we have groundwater. So,
yeah, and I totally understand that, and as I say, I listen to my guy there. He gives good advice and we're paying for it.
Well, and the last thing, Bill, for me would be, I prefer to use that money to help the Pickerings, to help Lot 6 drainage problem. You know, that's just the way I prefer to handle it.
I respect that.
Well, as a business, we would increase the cost. It's going to go to the end user, which is going to be the people that live there. It's not going to come out of your pocket, which means now we're going to not be protecting that side of this event as well. We're trying to add more homes for people to live in town that can't even afford to live here now who grow up here because it's so expensive and there's not many. And if you keep adding and asking and adding and asking, and he's just going to keep going, yep, another $100 a month per apartment, another $100, and that's how it's going to work. So we're not protecting the end user, who's the people who are moving into this place.
Ask for a grant from the state, right? The whole point of being 40B compliant is so you can't miss out on grant money.
It comes down to simple. You know, we all play by the same rules. If you want to do something on your property, we are going to respect your rights. And I think fair is fair. We've had legal counsel that we're going to respect that everybody get treated the same way. And I think we kind of show that that's an important value of the rules. Anyways, gentlemen, on all honesty, Mike, what other concerns am I forgetting or not bringing up tonight?
We discussed civil and stormwater. Those were the two main topics that was planned for tonight's discussion. Like you said, you were going to defer to Stantec to button up sort of some of the outstanding, very technical concerns that were raised in Stantec's presentation. Like I said, I'll follow up with, and I've already followed up with the DPW Fire Department regarding their concerns. I had sent some questions over to the applicant today that I had some questions about that I wanted to address with them. With the nothing major, just some suggestions. But I wanted to clear those out with our engineer and their engineer, and I'll bring that forward to the board for the next meeting. But the only outstanding things, as was discussed, is the addendum to the traffic report. As was mentioned, they were holding off until a little bit into January when school resumes and normal traffic patterns resume on that street to provide an accurate addendum, and then that'll be reviewed when that's available. So I guess are there issues and concerns outside of anything we've discussed in these meetings that you would like to flag or ask the applicant to address ahead of the next meeting? That'd be a good place to start. And I defer to Attorney Alpin as to his opinion on where we should go as far as topics for the January meeting.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that the applicant is willing and able to respond to our peer review's letter on civil. That would make the most sense for the next hearing. And hopefully we get comments back from the fire department and DPW. I think if those two things can happen between now and January, we have enough to talk about the response to the civil letter we received today.
Okay, my only request request is, if we're gonna do that, can you two get your heads, get together, and, or at least somehow get the conversation, maybe include Mike? I don't mind being there, I am retired, but.
I already emailed them.
Okay,
With
if we can get
asking
those
for
together,
dates
you know, and
available.
just get a point by point, and if you say, you know, we had these 5 issues, and we've resolved 4 of the 5, we're gonna look at whatever the 5th one is. Let's start working through those, and come to us with, that you have found solutions that you feel protect the town's interest, and our people's interest, and that you feel you get clarification on exactly what he wants. It's just easier instead of coming for that. It's a working session. No decisions, no policy decisions are made in a meeting like that. It's just, you know, technical, specific stuff. All right, gentlemen of the board, questions, concerns, comments, anything? I don't want to feel like I'm just railroading this through. Anything? I want to make sure that you all feel. You all good?
January 17th is your next meeting.
January 17th. And
I didn't want to disrupt.
Yes, sir.
I didn't want to ask, it's not outstanding, but as we think about the traffic report, James Meyer, 35 Fisk Avenue.
Yeah.
As we think about the traffic report of Fisk, last time I spoke at the hearing in October, I mentioned a suggestion because he wanted a specific suggestion. My suggestion was to reduce the units in half and have half of the bottom be retail to help the folks of the town. Or maybe when we have a low income, then we get the same percentage. But I have a different suggestion, if that's something that's not amenable. Perhaps having a left turn only, as we think about the traffic coming into Fisk. I think myself as driver, one can take 2 right-hand turns to get to Hartford, and then to get 25. Perhaps a left-hand turn only on the main street, with the gate post going into Memorial through Fisk, all that.
Just to add to, did you take a chance to read the police chief's letter?
I don't receive these updates.
No, they're on the website. Anyways, the police chief, in his letter, noted some concerns with traffic too. That's why we're doing the additional traffic studies. And we'll probably have an entire meeting just on traffic. And we will also make sure, because of the police chief's letter, we're going to ask him to be in attendance at that night. It is a major concern. He has some real concerns on it. There were a couple different options, everything from making your street one-way to things like that. So it's actually going to be a whole meeting focused just on that. Probably February would be my guess is when that meeting will be.
Even one additional suggestion, January with snowfall could limit traffic. I would suggest that we do it after.
The trouble we have is we have a 6-month deadline, of which we're 3 months in. We're already 3 months in. We don't have time to wait for somebody. Our board, if we do not render a decision by a certain date, it's just like an automatic granted. So we will not be able to wait for winter to be over. Just be aware of that.
Final comment, then in that traffic report, I would hope that in snowfall days, similar to the water that we're thinking about for rainfall, we would take those snowfall days out of some sort of the equation for only clear days for traffic purposes.
I would
School
ask,
will be canceled, folks won't go to work.
I don't know, I keep wanting to call you Stantec, and that's very rude of me to do that. So
I've been called worse.
I've been called,
Dave.
Dave, I'm blanking here. I'm honestly tired. It's been a long day. I don't think that's is something that's included in the normal standard traffic report. That it would just be, actually, it would just be, it's a set number of days. It's not, they don't account weather, I'm assuming.
No, I mean, the traffic report is making an update to traffic counts based on those intersections or where the additional, so it'll be similar to what they've already done, but they're actually doing additional traffic counts at those locations. So you'll be getting a whole new list of data traffic counts.
Okay.
And obviously they'll have to update the analysis based on the accounts.
Okay.
So there'll be the backup documentation, there'll be obviously an addendum and an update on the report will come from the
But it's not going to be, I'm assuming, not weather dependent.
No, not my understanding.
Anything with snowfall?
I would say that you've heard from Vanessa. They're normal, they're the most
Yeah.
well-respected people in the entire state.
Yeah.
I do not think that we'll be doing a traffic study on a day that there's a blizzard, that school is canceled, that we would ever come in front of this board with a straight face and say
Okay.
we
Thank you.
waited a month and a half to
There you
do a
go.
traffic report on a blizzard day.
Huh?
I imagine you're working a month-long study or something of that nature, it's not one day.
Yes. Yes,
So
and they actually go
of
up.
that month-long, you would strike out the days that are.
I don't know the number of days, but it's and it's very unfortunate you missed last month's meeting. I'm just saying, because we did have someone speak on the matter who was so much more of an.
It sounds like Mr. Lawson said those days would be stricken out.
If it's a blizzard day, yes, he's not gonna go up there. So that's
Everything
good.
is on the website. Also, the video is actually on YouTube. The video that Paul takes is on YouTube. If you go to Upton zoning board, you can watch the entire video.
I started.
I know, it's exciting, isn't it?
It'll put you right to bed.
All right, folks, since I haven't been given any more marching orders by the people who are much smarter
There's
than I
marching
am.
order.
Huh?
There's marching order.
Oh, darn it, what's that?
Just flip your paper.
Oh, jeez. I already put it in my notebook. 1 second here.
Just continuing the public hearing,
Oh, to a certain date. There we go.
January 15th.
Okay, so can I get a motion to?
17th.
Continue the public, Eric Delgado, on you on this one.
Right, I move that we continue the public hearing on the comprehensive permit application for 47 Main Street to January 17th, 2024. At what time? 6:30.
6:30 here.
Here.
I'll second.
Okay.
Mario, aye?
Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell.
Just so you know, she beats me if we don't go in the same order. This is where she can cut.
I'll have to watch the video. Minutes next. Approved
Minutes, okay.
minutes.
November 15th, let me just pull it up real quick. Folks, thank you for those that are leaving.
You also don't have to poll the members when you're in person. You just say, all in favor.
Oh, okay. All right. I have agenda, application Elm Street, special permit for Taft Street, Rocket Road, Plain, East, and Shore.
So not attached. Okay, so why don't you defer to next meeting, and I will send them tomorrow.
Okay, someone, please, someone give me a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Here we go, thank God.
I think these two.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah, really.